Biographical information. Alan Watts, 1915 to 1973, was one of the most prominent philosophers and thinkers of the 20th century, renowned for his ability to blend Eastern philosophy, particularly Buddhism, with Western philosophy in his work. Background. Date of birth: Alan Wilson Watts was born on January 6, 1915, in Chislehurst, Kent, United Kingdom. Family: Alan Watts was the child of British-Canadian parents, and he had a deep interest in philosophy and religion from an early age. Alan Watts was born into an upper-middle-class family in the village of Chislehurst, Kent, now in southeast London, in 1915. His early years were spent at 3, now 5, Holbrook Lane, which was later inhabited by the author John Hemming Clark. Watts' father, Lawrence Wilson Watts, represented the Michelin Tire office in London, while his mother, Emily Mary Watts, was a homemaker with a missionary father. With modest financial means, they chose to live in a rural setting, and Alan, their only child, grew up playing by the stream, learning the names of wildflowers and butterflies. Perhaps influenced by his mother's religious devotion, he was curious about the supreme matter that everything points to. But this was intermingled with Alan's fondness for parables and romance, especially those about the mysterious Far East. Watts later wrote about a mystical dream he had while suffering from fever as a child. During this time, he was captivated by paintings and embroidered landscapes from the Far East, gifted to his mother by missionaries returning from China. Some Chinese paintings that Watts could see in England fascinated him, and he wrote, "I became aesthetically entranced by the clarity, transparency, and spaciousness of Chinese and Japanese art. It seemed to float." These works of art emphasized the involvement of humans in nature, a theme that had lasting value throughout his life and one he often wrote about. For example, see the last chapter in The Way of Zen. Alan Watts introduced the vivacious complexity of Eastern wisdom to contemporary Western ideas. Renowned as a philosophical legend, he was not confined to a single role. Watts was an author, poet, progressive thinker, former clergyman, mystic, teacher, and social critic. Alan Watts is one of the more famous philosophers in our world today. However, it must be acknowledged that he was an unexpected philosopher. In contrast to many philosophers before and after him, he proved to inquisitive minds around the globe how to construct their own meaning from life. He comprehended the notion of stepping back from all the dramas we create in life, understanding the cosmic humor in everything. He wholeheartedly devoted himself to play. For this, he, like many others, considered himself an entertainer of the spiritual and philosophical realm. Buddhism and education. According to his own assessment, Watts was imaginative, stubborn, and loquacious. He was sent to boarding schools, including both academic and religious ones, from an early age. Of this religious education, he remarked, "During my time at school, my religious instruction was very harsh and maudlin." Watts spent much of his youth vacationing in France, accompanied by Francis Croshaw, a wealthy Epicurean with a deep interest in both Buddhism and the little-known, quirky aspects of European culture. Not long after, Watts felt compelled to choose between the Anglican faith he had been exposed to and the Buddhism he had read about in various places, including Croshaw's library. He chose Buddhism and sought to become a member of the London Buddhist Lodge. The lodge was founded by Theosophists and later led by the lawyer Christmas Humphreys. Watts became the organization's secretary at the age of 16, 1931. Young Watts explored various meditation styles during this time. Watts attended the King's School, Canterbury. He spent his free time participating in the activities of the Buddhist lodge and also, under the tutelage of an unworthy guru named Dmitry Mitranovic. Mitranovic himself was influenced by Peter Demianovich Ouspensky, G.I. Gurdjieff, and various schools of Freud, Jung, and Adlerian psychotherapy. Watts also read many philosophical, historical, psychological, psychoanalytic, and Eastern intellectual works. By his own account, and that of his biographer Monica Furlong, Watts was largely self-taught. In 1931, at the age of 16, Watts became the secretary of the London Buddhist Lodge. During this time, he also came into contact with spiritual authors, such as Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, Nicholas Roerich, and Alice Bailey, from whom he absorbed much. At the age of 17, in 1932, he published his first book, An Outline of Zen Buddhism. Though a small book of only 32 pages, it was highly regarded by scholars and is still in print today. Gradually, he became the editor of The Buddhist in England. He authored several influential books, including The Way of Zen, 1957, Psychotherapy East and West, 1961, the book On the Taboo Against Knowing Who You Are, 1966, and many other works. Watts was also known for his captivating lectures and presentations, in which he simplified complex philosophical ideas, often using anecdotes and examples from everyday life to teach philosophy and religion. Alan Watts faced personal challenges and underwent significant changes in his life. Nevertheless, he left a lasting impact on a generation of followers and students, and his work continues to be studied and discussed in the fields of philosophy, religion, and psychology. Alan Watts passed away on November 16, 1973, in California, USA. However, his writings and ideas continue to thrive and evolve in related fields.